GM, everyone, and welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour. Today is Monday, March 23rd, 2026. Folks, you aren't going to believe this. Today is actually National Bears Day. But unfortunately for the Bears, today is a very green day. Some surprising news on the Iran war front. Has markets sending? Is the war bottom in or just a temporary pause? We're going to talk about it on today's show. I'm your host, Tyler D. No Farouk. Today, Mando may pop in, but we got Logan in the house. Logan rocking the USA hat here today. GM, my friend, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, Tyler. I'm doing well. Yeah, I thought given some of the tweets we've seen out this morning, it was fitting to break out the USA baseball hat. I didn't have a chance to wear it last week amid the USA baseball. I shouldn't say disaster, but of course, failed expectations, not coming out with the World Baseball Classic crown. So had to break it out at some point.
I think it's okay to call it failed. I mean, we expected to win.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, favorites to win, and then bigger favorites once you actually get there and you're playing Venezuela, which had a Venezuela excellent team. Of course, just beat them. So
you and I were chatting, but for our listeners, so you did have a chance to go to the World Baseball Classic, which is where the hat came from.
Yeah. This is a USA baseball hat. I've saw him play USA Mexico in Houston. The best baseball atmosphere ever. It was incredible. The Mexican fans were just super awesome, made everything super, super enjoyable. So it was really, really great. Glad I went, even though it's an exhibition, may not matter too much. Of course, to many USA baseball fans, it was tremendous.
Love to hear it. And I'm going to give our listeners and viewers a heads up that I will be purchasing this hat myself. So you can expect to see me rocking this hat in the near future on FOMO Hour. It's an incredible hat. I see our chat is already electric here this morning. I'm seeing code is Bears are fucked. I can get behind that. But at the same time, Diego's saying 60K Bitcoin coming. So he's all over the place. He's Venezuelan. Well, congrats to our Venezuelan friend. Venezuela, quite the performance in the World Baseball Classic. I'm seeing calls that it's a fake pump. We need to touch 48K. I guess the National Bears are showing up in this chat today. I'm going to apologize in advance to you all. This is not going to be a Bears show. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm saying, how did it not dump back down after Iran denied the claims? Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's fake news. Talks are absolutely ongoing. It's been verified by multiple sources at this point in time. So my apologies to the Bears. Once again, okay, here we are. Carpe diem, Bears in shambles. Correct. That is the correct take here today. But we are going to talk about all that and more. Yeet code today, Bitcoin 250K. Oh, my, producer Charlie getting real bold up. He's even more bold up than I am. What a Monday indeed. So we're going to talk about the latest comments on the Iran war front that are pumping markets. We're going to talk about Saylor's tiny buy last week. He still got the highest fill he possibly could have gotten. Tom Lee, bigger buy. So Tom Lee has been active on multiple fronts. So we'll get into some of his action. And folks, somewhat buried in the Iran news, there's actually a major headline impacting prediction markets. Congress looking to put together a bipartisan bill to ban sports betting for prediction markets. So we're going to talk about that. Also, Polymarket supposedly has a big announcement coming today. Maybe lost some of the steam after that bill announcement, but we're going to speculate about that. Some progress on the Clarity Act. Hyperliquid doing $100 million in volume on its new S&P 500 market. Gemini getting sued for their prediction market pivot. And some breaking news about a Mad Lads airdrop. Seems like it's underwhelming. Not a huge surprise there. So a lot to get into. Before we jump in, want to give a quick shout out to our partner Walrus. Walrus is a verifiable data platform for builders in AI and on-chain finance. As these systems handle more money and decisions, the more mission critical the data foundation becomes. To learn more, visit walrus.xyz. And we will be doing Yeet action at the end of today's show. As always, just to spin, we will save the actual gameplay for when Farouk is back, but we will at least select the winner. So you will want to make sure to stay tuned to the end of the show for that. And with that, I will go ahead and jump into our market report here and just kind of go around the horn on what has been quite the morning for markets overall. So Bitcoin up 4%, 71 or 87. Oh my. What a pump. Still red on the week. I guess surprising. I guess I kind of forget how high we were to start last week. So we were around 74K, I suppose. But up 4%, moving up. ETH up 5%, outperforming a bit at 2180. Solana up 5% as well, back at 9124. Hyperliquid actually lagging. It's weird. Hyperliquid does kind of do this, right? It outperforms when things are sideways or down, and then it underperforms when majors are pumping. So not necessarily a cause for concern. We'll talk about some bullish headlines on the Hyperliquid front. We also have kind of going around the horn. Stocks are up huge. NASDAQ's up 2%. The Dow's up 2% as well. Oil has fallen off the cliff. Oil down 9% below $90 a barrel here. The oil longs crushed. RIP. Gold underperforming as well. Gold down 2.7%, 44.50. I saw it below 4,400 when I woke up this morning. Silver down. Copper down substantially from where it had been trading. Still down about 20% below that $6 level, but is green on the day. Kind of, we've been dancing around this, but woke up to this headline. This actually, I was at the desk when this news broke. I'll just read the quote here from Trump. The United States and Iran have had productive discussions over the past 2 days, fully resolving hostilities in the Middle East. As talks continue this week, I've ordered a 5-day pause on any military strikes against Iran energy infrastructure contingent on progress. All right. So this is the news. Some are calling it a Trump taco. Basically, we have a 5-day postponement. This came after what was a very volatile weekend where Trump had delivered a 48-hour timeline, an ultimatum, effectively, that they were going to go and strike Iranian energy infrastructure if the Strait of Hormuz wasn't opened. It's unclear that those demands were actually met, but apparently talks have been progressing well. We did get some reports out of an Iranian media group that said there are no talks. Markets sold off on that news, but have since rebounded. We are just kind of basically in a situation where it's hard to really understand exactly what's true, what's not true. But there have been more reports out of sources like Axios that Turkey, Pakistan are being intermediaries in discussions between the U.S. and Iran. So it does seem to me like the most likely explanation is that talks are happening, at least in some capacity. I was personally wondering, like, how can you even have talks? Like, it's very unclear to me who's even in power in Iran right now. So that's another factor in the calculus, and that gets messy as well, as the situation continues to go on. But oil impacted, largely the factor driving markets up here today. And then some other news. I think this is what really rebounded markets this morning after the sell-off on the Iranian denial, was that Israel is also going to perhaps follow suit. So not just the U.S., it would be U.S. and Israel suspending targets of Iranian power plants. So that's the backdrop for the morning. Prices are continuing to grind up here. So Bitcoin now 71.7. Erasing pretty much the entire decline that started middle of last week. So we're red from last Monday, but elevators up situation right now on Bitcoin. It does seem like Bitcoin ETH are the two primary movers on the day. I'm going to kind of scroll through the list. Zeke's up 5%, Tal's up 6%, AVAX up 7%. The memes are underperforming majors. I kind of noticed that when I was running the minutes here this morning. So this is definitely a crypto major-led move. I'll pause. I guess, Logan, reactions to the headlines. Are you buying it? Like, is it time to get long? Do we need to wait and see? Kind of what in the situation?
Am I buying it? It's an interesting question. You mentioned just how silly it is to be able to try to wade through what's true, what's not true here. No clue, right? Like, as impossible as it is to know, I, of course, have no other information that would help me form an opinion as to whether what's being said is true or not. With that being said, any ceasefire, peace stuff, progress, regardless of how small, seems significant and good. So I'm all for that. Nothing as far as like my actions related to this stuff, nothing has changed for me. My horizon is still, long zoomed out beyond this. And so I'm, just continue to dollar cost average into things like Bitcoin, hype, and actually zero, I think, is the only other thing that I'm like DCAing into at this point in time. So I feel okay. I mean, No, nothing crazy from my perspective. No super crazy strong opinions. I'm not micro trading this macroeconomic stuff. One of the things I was thinking about as you were walking through that was like, those memes about how everything is priced in. Just given the volatility of this, on every single Trump post, or the post about the headline of the that there are no talks. Like, it just seems so wild. Like, it's not priced in. Like, nothing is anything priced in sufficiently at this point in time. I know there's arguments to be made on both sides of that, like how much of that is true, the efficient market stuff, but it's just silly. Like, he posts something, we wick up 2%. He posts something else, we wick down 2%. Like, it's just absolutely. And I don't have the energy. I'm not an expert trader, so I'm not doing that anyway. And if I was, like, who has the energy to trade these posts on social media? Of course you do, Tyler, because you're, a different specimen. But not many folks have what it takes, I think, to wade through that. It's just so much energy and time and focus.
Well, I may have the energy, but I'm not deploying it. I'm not
Okay.
day trading or swing trading any of this. I don't think anyone has an edge. I think this market is just so heavily headline driven, and the headlines themselves are hard to even trust. But I was in our group chat this morning, the FOMO hour chat, and just there's a cohort of folks who are just hardcore TA, like technical analysis. They look at the crypto charts and they know we're going lower because this is the typical bear setup. But I think I don't know how you trust TA in a headline driven news cycle. I mean, everything looked terrible yesterday. There were once again calls that this was going to be like a COVID style crash week, that this was going to be a terrible red open Monday. And then once again, here we are, the opposite. I mean, when oil is trading like this, it's hard to think anything is super priced in. And this is effectively a shitcoin chart here from one of the biggest assets in the world.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like to me, like this feels like a no one knows anything. Like that's what we're in. So I guess that's maybe good news if you have strong opinions and you're, a leveraged trader. Like, this type of volatility, these types of candles could be highly productive for you, or the complete opposite as well. So it's not my game. I know that I'm not equipped. I have no edge here to be able to be trading this in either direction. And so I'm kind of sitting on my hands and just adding, because I do feel like, the code was what, BTC 250K or something like that. I just feel like this time is a period. I was talking to someone last week that, like, as frustrating as it is, we've been chopping and dwindling down for like a long, long period of time. Like, having like a new base, like a longer term base around like 60 to 70K, it does feel kind of nice. And what I really don't want to do is, like, 3 years from now, be kicking myself for not for turning off my dollar cost averages or whatever because of all the fear and stuff. So yeah, I'm just trying to. I keep saying it on the show, and I hate to, just keep bringing it up, but I'm just trying to, like, not pay attention to this stuff. I know we were talking separately about, like, how the timeline is impossible to exist in as well. I have half of mine, which is like the world is coming to an end, literally, and you can very easily, like, persuade yourself that that's the case, which is kind of scary because, a lot of the rationale. I was talking last week about how easily I could be persuaded. Maybe I'm just a sheep, Tyler. Like, how easily I could be persuaded into, believing Tau is the play or whatever. Like, I read some of the tweets on my timeline and I can very easily be persuaded into, holy shit, everything is over. And then, I'm sure my timeline today, it'll be like, we're so back. I can be swayed in either direction based on the algo for sure.
You gotta be careful spending too much time online, especially on Twitter these days. I mean, there's the long form posts, the threads telling you that you need 8 weeks of food supply, that you have another week or two to get it before it's impossible. And you've got folks on the other side. You've got folks talking about how it's the end of the West, that Iran's winning the war. Like, there's just so many texts. It's very hard to parse through, and it can be very detrimental to one's mental state if you spend too much time sifting through it. And it does feel like it's like everything's on fire and the world's burning. And then again, you go outside, and well, outside's not quite as bad. So it is nice to go. But I guess what's giving me pause, and I lean bullish. I've said that I don't trust the TA, but I do recognize that in higher time frequency bear trends, basically what happens is Bitcoin will grind up for a period of time, and then it'll do the next leg lower. And it does look like we're doing something similar to that here. But hey, it looks like we have our quant in the house to help us break it all down.
Hey guys.
GM, how you doing?
GM, sorry I missed a couple of shows last week. I was in London. The flight got delayed. But yeah, crazy few days, felt like. I did tweet out on Friday, bear trap, and then I deleted it because I was like, I don't need to see this for the rest of my day. And I did put on a Bitcoin trade at around 70K, which wasn't looking so good.
Yeah.
And then, but I was like, it kept on to that 68K level. And then I saw a Zoran Cole tweet. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah, he's been the bull.
Well, he said 68K, then 80K.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I kind of believe this. This just feels like a bear trap. And it was. He then says short everything from 80K.
Which is common. I think a lot of our quants are saying, yeah, relief pump to 80, and then that's where you want to go short. So take it all with a grain of salt, I suppose.
It just, crypto has been outperforming. There's no doubt about it. And I think that it just felt like that was so I bought some more this morning.
All right.
At 68, when it was dancing around this level, I was like, you know what, this just feels better. So my average is now closer to like mid 69s, low 69s now. And I feel like holding this. Like what headline is possibly going to come out here that makes you want to sell?
It basically would have to be like a U.S. strike on Iranian energy infrastructure, just like totally going back on what they said. Which seems...
Yeah, that would be the one. That is the right one, but I also don't think that's coming. Yeah. I actually think that like there has been a lot of doomerism about the US around this whole conflict, and I think they've been dominating, but they did lose this battle. Trump did not need to ratchet it up at that exact time. I felt like sometimes he does this brinkmanship to see what they will do, and he now knows what Iran will do, which is always he does that a lot to reveal their hand. So maybe there was a little bit of that. It didn't feel like it was needed, right? On Friday, it felt like there was maybe a path to it not being needed, and then it suddenly was. But there's clearly a lot of pressure from all the countries around them to come to some form of a deal. I think there was talk about Pakistan being like the main person now trying to broker some sort of a truce. I do think the attitude of some of the Gulf nations is somewhat hardening. I saw a quote from like the UAE foreign minister, which is like, I don't want a ceasefire. I want this to be like dealt with, essentially. But Iran can say it caused Trump to blink all of this, all it likes. Like Iran is completely decimated, guys. Like you can win a battle and still lose the war spectacularly here. So I think what Iran is saying is we have this one ace in the hole that is going to stop. But it's not like they're in some amazing position. The ace in the hole is basically is to take everyone down with them. You know,
right.
It's a dead man's switch. So it's not like it's not like incredible. So I just think that. And I did so that, which is also why I don't think Trump really need to go there, because he made them go for their dead man switch essentially. But now they know he kind of knows what it would be. So maybe that's what he wanted to do. But I think US is still in a very, very strong position here. The real damage is economic. The real damage is economic, but to countries outside of the US, which is the most interesting thing. Like if you know anything about the US, although it has stopped a lot of its offshore oil and the pipeline, obviously, to Alaska, it still is massively energy independent, and only more so after Venezuela. Cuba as well. Like, if that falls, that's got a ton of rare earth minerals as well on it. So US is kind of still going to win in this sort of scenario. It's Europe that would be really, really hurt if this continues.
It's ironic. Just I mean, I hate to call it ironic during a war scenario, but there was the Sell America trade. A big part of that was by Euro stocks, Asia stocks, and that's totally reversed. Right, like as an outcome here. But one of my concerns is that dead man switch, and like that is always going to be on the table. So how do you get that off the table? Like, what to negotiate? Like, what is the end of this? Like, what's the ceasefire? What does the negotiation look like? Or is
there is no end to that dead man switch, though, right? Like, it's like if you look at Iran, the whole of its coastline surrounds that body of water. Like, it's always going to have the ability to strike ships in that exact vicinity. Short of you building an overland pipeline, I don't think there really is one. But that doesn't mean you win the war. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you could still be absolutely decimated, and this is just the final thing that's like, okay, well, we're going to cause as much damage if we go down. But I think they're in a really tough spot. So
I do think, like, when you start thinking about like U.S. troops on the ground, so that was the headline on Friday that also sent markets down, right? Mobilizing 3,000 more troops from the U.S. and looks like they're moving towards the Middle East. Some of the Middle Eastern countries hardening. I feel like you can maybe paint a picture that it's worth it if we get to like true peace in the Middle East in 6 months or 9 months or whatever the time frame is. And I don't know. But if you don't get there, like if there is no path to get there.
People have said the path is that Iran joins the Board of Peace, that Trump, like the eventual truce deal here is Iran joins the Board for Peace that was created after the Hamas war, right? And that would be like the ultimate truce at the end of this war. I don't know if that happens, but like the rosiest picture is that at the end. That's what people have said, like, okay, eventually there's enough pressure and then somebody comes in, or they get, and like part of the agreement to reduce sanctions or part of the agreement to do that is that they join the Board for Peace, and then we eventually get to some sort of peace in that region with everyone having a buy-in somewhat. I don't know, like, but that's what I've heard.
Be a nice scenario, but yeah. I'm not sure what the percentage odds of that are. I did see, so ceasefire odds did jump. I mean, they're still quite low, but March 31st ceasefire odds on the Polymarket now 23%. They were 10%. They've been 10%, so that's a full 130% move. Back to a coin flip by April 30th. Not as much of a move there. I guess April odds were like 35, 40%, now up to 50. It's not a significant move. It's still a coin flip to have a ceasefire by April 30th. Has your opinion changed? I think you had been calling it a 2-month war. Do you still think it is, Amanda? Has this changed your outlook?
I still think it's a next month thing. I think that's where we're like 3 weeks away from oil running out in certain countries at the moment, and there's pressure. It's pressure from the people aligned with Iran that will cause this, which is mainly Pakistan and China, right? India's like a small amount. India is kind of playing both sides. It's mainly Pakistan and China, and I think Pakistan is, if you don't know, gets an absolute metric ton of US aid every single year. The whole government is basically propped up by the US, and then China, I think, is being affected by the effect on its own manufacturing ability. Like, this is really going to hurt them. So I think that comes to a head in 2 months.
for this market specifically, I'm looking at the resolution. Like, basically, the way this is structured, if Iran agrees to a ceasefire for even like a day, I think this would actually resolve. Yes. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the war would be over, but I think even a temporary ceasefire would, for this specific market, would be the resolution. Although a 2 to 5 day ceasefire, I'm not really sure is the outcome folks are looking for, or the spirit of this, right? I feel like the spirit of this is a longer term peace deal. So we will certainly see. We'll be watching this one closely. It's the number one thing impacting markets, of course, oil trading, effectively like a shitcoin. It's below 90 now, 89. It went over 100 last night. So incredibly volatile. Saw reports that there was a big short put in on this. I haven't had a chance to actually dig up the data behind that. But if someone,
it's great.
100,
Somebody bought the ceasefire thing on Polymarket, right? Did you see that? Like,
oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, somebody came in and bought that March ceasefire market you just brought up.
Oh.
There was like a big.
Here's the spike. Yeah. Okay, that would.
There was a big thing that went through, and everyone was like, "Oh, what does somebody know something?" I think people got decimated trading oil this weekend. Yeah, crypto. It feels like markets are being introduced to crypto guys, and crypto guys are being introduced to markets at the same time. And it's like everyone's just kind of like, "What the fuck is going on right now? Like, can we just chill?"
Yeah, even the S&P right now, the S&P is back up, but like since when the S&P index was introduced on hyperliquid, it went straight down.
Gold. Remember when gold was a big thing? Gold is down. The candle on gold. I bought gold at 4,150 this morning. Bought it first thing.
Oh my
God.
God.
There was no way it's trading there. It was sitting at its 200-day moving average. I was just like, this cannot be right.
I had no idea. I didn't see that it went this low. It already rebounded by the time I was awake, and I didn't check the chart. Oh my gosh.
So that's why I got bullish on Bitcoin as well. Bitcoin was still at 68K with gold at 4,150. So I woke up and I was like, I mean, this has got to be bullish for Bitcoin, right? Like that it hasn't moved lower here with gold getting decimated.
So gold peaked at like 54. Man, that wasn't even that long ago. That was 3.5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Hung out there for about a week, then kind of went back to the 5,000, 5,200 level all the way to, so that's a full 25% drawdown almost. Wow.
25%. Silver. Look at fucking silver.
And that's almost a full 40% down move. And silver went higher than 96, right? Didn't it get? Oh,
silver went to 120, dude. Yeah.
Oh my God. So that's a full 50%.
I think it was only introduced to hyperliquid like a couple of weeks before that.
Yeah. So here it is. Yeah, here's the beginning. Basically, they got the first rise up, and then the full 50% drawdown. Welcome to our hell. The copper trade still never did pan out really, unfortunately. Yeah. It's down 20% as well. So the metals, CT was late to the metals trade. We were
right now. I have to say, I like my Bitcoin trade. I think Bitcoin. I'm in the Zora and Cole camp here that we could get a nice little wick up to this 78, 80K. And then I'll take it off. So if you're looking for a trade, I think that's the one.
Looking here, so basically since the big sell-off in early February, we've been putting in higher lows. 68 holding was a pretty key level. So higher high, yeah. I mean, to get to a higher high was 78, then 78, 80. Seems like it might be in the charts. I don't know if it's going to be Saylor who pushes us there, and I'll get to that in a second. But we kind of dance around this. It is stark now how Bitcoin has outperformed everything else since the war began, and we bashed it, or no? I mean, we were objectively negative on it when it was underperforming gold and everything else during the sell-off, but now it has been objectively much stronger. The war began on the 28th. Since then, it's up 8%. Gold's fallen off a cliff. stocks are down, even with today's rebound. So Bitcoin has been leading this rally. I think it's a big deal. And this past week, it wasn't even Saylor. So Saylor bought 29 million last week, I believe I saw. Oh, 76 million. Okay. But still, I mean, the week before that, he had done 1.28 billion. So this is like 6-7% of his prior week's buy. So relatively small. It is somewhat funny that he somehow got a 74K average last week.
Did he?
He got a 74K. Last week started on the 16th. So we basically did trade at like 74 for about a day and a half, but he basically must have bought like here, or else it was him early in the week and he drove us up to the local high to 75. It also means he didn't buy any of the back half of the week when Bitcoin was trading at 70.
Hey, it still brought down I was just looking at his average, strategy's average, still brought it down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Best to ever do it.
75.6. They're now only down 3.3 billion, according to Sailor Tracker.
Stretch has been under par. It's getting closer. As soon as you don't worry, you'll see it. People will be tweeting it out on your timeline the second Stretch gets back to 100. So you don't need to monitor the situation. Folks will monitor it for you. But it's creeping out. So as soon as that turns back on, I think folks will be quite bullish. And then, I mean, Tom Lee, he's been making big moves as well. So Saylor bought 70 million last week. Tom bought 140 million. He bought double Saylor for an asset that's 1/5 the market cap. So a much more impactful buy. But Logan, you've been kind of writing about this 8Co thing. I don't think a lot of people know about this. Do you want to kind of explain it, what it is, what it means for Bitmine?
Yeah, sure. So just to go back, actually, there's been a couple headlines from 8Co over the course of the last few weeks. But zoom all the way out to last fall, maybe even the end of last summer. 8Co Holdings, its ticker is Orbs, ORBS. But more or less, they joined the DAT phase, but they made a WorldCoin focused treasury. This was last year at some point in time, and Tom Lee and Bitmine invested in them at that point in time. In the last couple of weeks, they've re-upped the investment. They added more money alongside like ARK Invest as well. Sent shares of 8Co up a little bit. They're still down tremendously, but basically, Bitmine continued, pushing money into this. Tom Lee was added to the board of directors over at 8Co. And 8Co, since using, I don't know that it's directly utilizing those funds, but in those last couple of weeks, 8Co has been bolstering its investments in OpenAI. So kind of, if you use the transitive property, you're sort of getting exposure to OpenAI via Bitmine. And that's kind of what this story is a little bit about. 8Co, again, this blockchain, they're calling themselves sort of a blockchain and AI, this sort of emerging technologies firm. But they are the ones getting the exposure into OpenAI. And then Bitmine has exposure to 8Co via its moonshot strategy. And that's that sort of Google, like, take small bets at these big potential, movers thing. So hopefully that was clear enough. There's a lot of intertwined stuff happening there, but yeah, sorry, I thought you were pulling up the 8Co stuff. The 8Co stocks chart is not super pretty. That's for sure. But they are still doing stuff. I think they actually, one of the nice things about it, and I'm not sure if it's that article, Tyler, or maybe one of the other ones I wrote, but they gave an update of like their actual holdings as well. I think they have like around $90 million worth of OpenAI. They have like $90 million worth. Yeah, right there. $90 million worth, I think, or 85-ish in WorldCoin, right, which is still the primary treasury vehicle for them, as well as they have some Ethereum holdings and like 75 million or so in cash and stable coins.
Some incredible financial engineering here. So Tom Lee invests 125 million. We don't know if it was all him. I think ARK Invest was also in the deal.
Yeah, that's the most recent one was ARK Invest as well. There may have been some, I think Kraken's company Payward. That was the most recent one, 125 million across those firms. I think 75 of it was Bitmine, though. I could be mixing up my numbers. Bitmine was the majority of that 125. And Bitmine had an investment from last year as well in 8Co. So they've kind of double dipped. This one was a larger investment.
So they're buying the dip on 8Co and getting exposure to OpenAI and WorldCoin via their investment in 8Co. It does raise the question of why they wouldn't just do it themselves, but I guess they want the extra upside, perhaps averaging down on their prior investment, because they also get the WorldCoin exposure.
I don't know. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind for me is I don't know, like, how difficult is it to get exposure to OpenAI? Of course, like, you can utilize some of those private market-y type things, but you couldn't possibly get down, $90 million worth, right? So you have to have the avenue to gain that exposure. I don't know what that looks like. And, maybe it's far easier for 8Co, given its relationships, to get that than it is for Bitmine itself just to get OpenAI exposure. I don't exactly know. It does seem like it would just be easier to do it yourselves if you could, but I don't know.
Let's see, what's OpenAI trading at? 900 billion. I mean, I don't love it as an investment. Like, it's definitely not a moonshot by any means. Like, what's your best return on that? Like, in the near term, 2x. Like, ETH is probably has higher upside than that at these levels. But notable moves from Tom Lee here, and ETH is outperforming. I guess, Mando, just from a charting perspective, a token perspective, you mentioned a Bitcoin buy. Did anything else stand out to you? Anything looking?
We can look briefly.
Yeah, be good.
I have to go in a second, but share my screen.
Yeah, as he pulls that up, one thing, and just to note regarding, Tom, of course, seems perma bullish, but he keeps saying in these press releases every week that this crypto winter is coming to an end. I think that he's called it crypto winter a few times. So maybe soon, spring. It was 80 degrees here yesterday. So spring soon.
To be honest, like, quite a few things broke back up.
Wow.
Bitcoin did, ETH did, Asta didn't, even BNB did, Fartcoin didn't yet. Hype's been strong. It's just kind of had fallen off a little bit. Pump didn't. Even Solana did. Interestingly, even the total crypto market cap did.
Okay.
So, like, that, I mean, other than them hitting the power plants, I think you're meant to be long this market right now.
All right. We will take it.
XMR actually looks strong. Probably the strongest. Yeah.
Privacy bulls. Where is the 360?
Yeah, it's looking good. Looking good. The market looks okay. I mean, I do think there's one of these things where it feels jittery. So, like, even every single day, there's like an opportunity to buy Bitcoin. But I do think get a little bit squeezy here.
I don't know if we talked about Tau. I know you have to run. Do you have the Tau chart, Mando?
I have not got it up. Let me find it.
People get very pumped on the back of the Chamath Jensen Huang podcast last week.
Yeah, looking okay. Looking okay. It's the thing about Tau is it has not moved for many years.
Yeah.
This is just the futures, but it's been around this sort of level for like 2+ years now. I think it's interesting. It's been the strongest coins have generally been these AI crypto coins. So maybe there's something to it. I don't buy the like. I just don't like Jason. So I don't like that he's bullish it. That makes me think it's like I shouldn't buy it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I saw his tweet. I'm actually going to find it.
Shit, what is this about sell half your Bitcoin, buy Tau?
Yeah, Tau's better than Bitcoin. It's like, bro.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think this is a big red flag.
Yeah, he's flooded Bitcoin all the way up, and then now it's like sell your Bitcoin, buy Tau.
Here's the not financial advice. He's saying he's talking to a family member. What's this Tau you keep talking about in the pod? I'm sure a family member asked him that. He says, sell half your Bitcoin, buy Tau. Remind me 6, 12, 18, 24 months. And then he goes on to say, what logical sense does it make to buy MicroStrategy instead of Bitcoin? This is like two very different points to have been made in this tweet. So very strange, but it's one of those things where, like, in hindsight, it will have been very obvious. Like, oh, the most obvious crypto AI play was Tau. So if, like, it's one of those things, like, yes, you would kick yourself. Was it like trading at $2,000 a coin? But I mean, you just pulled up the chart, like, it just doesn't move. Like, every time.
If he can explain to me what Tau is, I'd have a better idea of backing it. But
that's kind of what I said last week. You could very easily persuade me, probably, but I would need somebody to tell me a little bit more.
The thing, it's not the easiest thing to explain. It's Bitcoin. People say it's Bitcoin for AI, right? And I've heard that sort of stuff many, many times. But it is generally a rewards mechanism for various different things in AI. It's just been used in AI, but it could be used for anything. And basically, some distribution of the supply of the tokens is given out based on the revenue of the subnets. And all of those subnets are around AI. So just think about it as it's been used for AI, but it could be used for anything. And it's a system of distribution coins based on the revenue of the subnets. There's a lot more supply than there is revenue. So there's that. And there's been quite a lot of, in the past, there was some gamesmanship of that distribution because it used to be based on how much was staked to each of the subnets. And people used to stake kind of crap subnets and get a lot of Tau. So it's not like some perfect system. And even the Tau people will tell you that too. Like, they have made some changes to make it better. And some cool stuff is being built, but it's not as pure and beautiful as Bitcoin because it has this kind of like utility angle to it.
Important clarification, especially for someone who's thinking about jumping into the trade on the back of a Jason tout. So yeah. Thanks for walking us through that. We've talked about a decent amount on the show across the past year or so.
Yeah, I've been bullish on it. I still there's been certain times I've been definitely bullish. Oh, Saber's announcing another $21 billion stock at the money program.
Is that something that's happening? Wow. I'll pull this up. This is an hour ago. I missed this. So Strategy announces new $21 billion stretch ATM program. And wow. So the limits just do not exist. So if investors will give him cash, he will take it and he will buy Bitcoin with it. Stretch is moving up. Stretch is 99.92. So he has the green light to continue buying in humongous size. We will see if he's able to pull that off. Oh, Mando, thanks for walking us through the reports. I think we'll start going through some of the other headlines from the day. I think arguably this biggest one, it got buried this morning a bit in the Iran war news, but impacting prediction markets. Lawmakers to introduce bipartisan bill banning sports bets on prediction markets. So senators from across the aisle have come out in support of this, introducing the legislation today to prohibit entities regulated by the CFTC from listing contracts related to sports events. So they're effectively trying to cut the CFTC at the knees here. And I have not had a chance to really dig through this because we know CLIG and the CFTC are overwhelmingly okay with prediction markets in their current state. And are basically just trying to put a framework in place to allow them to operate. And it seems like congressmen are going to come in and say, well, not so fast. Logan, have you had a chance to take a look at the specific news here?
Not this particular article, but I mean, take a look at that first quote from Adam Schiff. I mean, he's just exactly what you said. It seems like they're trying to cut the CFTC down at the knees. I mean, talking about them just greenlighting and promoting their growth, which that's probably a fair way to characterize it. Time to step in and eliminate the backdoor, which violates state consumer protections. No way to say it probably too much better than that. And this, I mean, makes sense to a degree. This has been bubbling, I would say, and was the big concern from my standpoint when we were talking last week about the Kalshi valuation and what makes sense and would you invest? Where does future growth come from? it all hinges on this and some of these battles that they're fighting in state courts. And, I think after our conversation last week, we also got the temporary restraining order in Nevada as well, which I'm not sure we had a chance to talk about. So, I mean, there's so much going on here. I don't know how quickly it will play out, right? You're talking about you're talking about court stuff and you're talking about congressional stuff here with lawmaking, and it could drag on for a while. That allows these prediction market platforms to continue to kind of build up and grow and just do tremendous volumes. This is such a fantastic moment in time for sports, just given the March Madness stuff. And then you've got the NBA playoffs coming, you have baseball coming, and just like a magnificent time for sports. And of course, that means lots of volume for gambling as well. So it's just a really, really interesting time. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's going to create some really key precedents, of course.
A few thoughts, and I'll go to the volume numbers here in a minute. I think part of the pushback, I saw some decent pushback this weekend, and it was less against the prediction markets of the world, more of the crypto exchanges who are now pivoting in, or not pivots, or who are opening up prediction market products, specifically at Coinbase. And Gemini is getting sued. We can maybe talk about that in a minute as well. But if you open the Coinbase app this weekend, it was directing you to bet on March Madness. And I saw folks complaining like, this is where I go to hold my crypto and perhaps trade crypto. Why are you telling me to use my crypto assets to bet on basketball games? And I don't know. I feel like they've got a point. And this is a little bit tangential to, I guess, this direct story, but I think it is all related.
Hey, it's not betting, man. It's not gambling.
It's just tricky. I mean, we've seen like the Polymarket Kalshi taglines. They started out being like truth machines, and now you've seen the rhetoric change. And now it's just like, well, hey, the sports books have worse odds and are worse for consumers, so we're better. And like Brian Armstrong is talking, kind of hanging on the party line that crypto is freedom. You're finding your way out of the system. But then when you log into his app, he's telling you to bet on basketball games. So I all this to say, I see where the pushback is coming from. And it's actually time because when we spent a lot of time on this on Friday, so I guess we don't necessarily need to rehash for those who were in the show, but we did go through the volumes. We talked about how it impacts DraftKings stock. I looked at the numbers again today. Basically, Polymarket's doing about 35 to 40% of its volume in sports. Kalshi's doing 70 to 85%. It has been interesting though. Basically, sports volume roughly flat for Kalshi over the last 6 to 8 weeks, while volumes have gone up and to the right. So there were a few weeks here. I guess at the end of the year, sports was 90% of Kalshi's volume. So I guess they have used their sports boon to increase other markets. So I guess to their credit. So 90% last week of December, now only about 70% this past week. So they are definitely adding share in some other sectors. But this comes after they just announced their latest raise at $22 billion, them being Kalshi. 70% hit to their sports volume would certainly be an impact to that. So I am curious if that raise is still ongoing, if it's impacted. And then we also talked about DraftKings and how the stock's basically trading against Kalshi sports volume. DraftKings stock was up. It's only up 4% now. It's on 7% pre-market.
Yeah.
So they would be a clear winner in all this. But
yeah, I saw FanDuel's, which I think is like Flitter or something like that. Its parent company was up. Flutter. Sorry, it's over there to the right in the related 6.5% today. I mean, they would be the very, very clear winners here. If these prediction markets can't offer sports at all. So I don't know. I'm like, one thing that strikes me is just the timing around all of this is interesting. I understand that everybody's sort of operating in this gray area, and that provides you the opportunity for absurd growth, right? So it's I mean, crypto was there for so long and still is in some ways. So it provides you that like volatility in a good way or in a bad way. but like investors had to know some of this stuff was coming, right? Like these things don't pop up out of nowhere. And of course, the court stuff was already out there, related to Nevada. Now you have the Arizona stuff. There's Ohio stuff. I mean, like it's everywhere. Kalshi's been fighting these battles in more than one state for a long time. But investors not seeming concerned. I mean, maybe they are concerned, but like raising at those valuations makes me feel like they're not concerned at all, So I don't know. It's just an interesting timeline for me. Like there's some conflicting things happening here. That it almost feels like the people with the money who are, no pun intended, making bets on this feel like it's going to result in nothing. And, the prediction markets are going to be fine.
I mean, I think you and I were both around for Black Friday for poker, right? When online poker was banned.
Oh, that was a little before me. But.
Okay, yeah, you are a little younger. And that was it didn't seem like something like that was possible. And then like all these poker businesses basically just demolished in a single headline. I mean, if this was to pass, right? I mean, this would be devastating to the current valuations. It would have to be.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Polymarket less so than Kalshi with only 30% sports. So I think they would be fine. They would recover. It would be a temporary blip. Kalshi would have to find its new focus, I think.
Yeah,
it's a very important one to watch.
One thing that so this image, which has nothing to do, I mean, it's an NHL image, of course. But it just comes to me like, I don't expect that these leagues would be lobbying on the behalf of the prediction markets. Of course, they have deals with them, right? You saw the MLB deal last week with Polymarket, notable, of course. But like, I don't suspect that the leagues would really be like putting any weight behind any of this. Like they can't possibly care, right? They already have the deals with the traditional sports books anyway. Like, does it really matter to them? Probably not. I just don't know. I mean, like, Kalshi and others in this space, of course, like have, there's real weight behind the lobbying efforts here to get this stuff done. But like, is there enough of it? I don't know. I have no clue.
We will see. We'll be following this one very closely, impacting the whole sector. I guess this also comes as we are expecting an announcement from Polymarket today. I'm curious actually if it's delayed in some fashion because of this blockbuster news this morning. But Mustafa, self-described as a senior intern from Polymarket, tweeted this out on Friday. Big announcement coming Monday. I believe some folks thought Poly token announcement. I'm not in that camp. Myriad had spun up a market. I think it's less than 10% chance to be a token. I've seen folks think it's going to be like 1 minute markets or like ongoing, like perpetual markets. That could be one. I've also seen speculation that it would be like user created markets, a path for anyone to create a prediction market. Both of those seem a little bit more viable to me. So I don't know if we need to spend any more time speculating. We'll likely see what the announcement is here later today. Somewhat tangential to this is Gemini is getting sued. Sandra wrote this up for Decrypt, largely because their stock has fallen so significantly since their IPO. But those who are suing Gemini and the Winklevoss twins are basically saying they're including the prediction market pivot as a part of this, that they didn't disclose that was going to be a new focus of the company. That's material information. And that has led to their decline. It is interesting to me. I feel like I'm seeing, like I mentioned Coinbase and Gemini, and I haven't seen Coinbase's numbers. I would guess they're quite low. I don't know anyone personally who bets on Coinbase predicts. I don't really see anyone talking about it.
Well, they just use the Kalshi markets. So,
okay, so it's all
you can't actually, you can't actually see, to my knowledge, you can't actually see the individual numbers being derived from Coinbase's activity. But I don't know anyone utilizing it. I
guess if you want to be an everything app, you're going to have it.
Yeah.
Just another thing for you to trade, I suppose. So probably not going away.
I'm sorry. This Gemini thing is interesting to me. I think it is fair to say that the pivot to prediction markets kind of came out of left field, but I actually feel like Gemini has been among publicly traded companies and probably those in this space. I feel like they've been decently transparent. They've laid off a bunch of folks recently. I wrote a story maybe a month or so ago about one of the first sets of layoffs, and they pulled out of they pulled their crypto exchanges. It's still like an ongoing process, I think. They're winding down international operations in like the UK and Australia and stuff. And they were forthright about the fact that like it didn't make sense to continue to offer those. There just wasn't like enough demand. So I wonder, and in that same message was the talk about, hey, we're going to double down on prediction markets, and they're talking about leaning into AI as well, right? Because the efficiency gains is part of the layoffs. But all that to say, like, I wonder if, 6 months from now, if there is no uptick in the prediction market stuff, if they're willing to have the same conversation, which is that there's not enough demand here. Like, we're going to scrap the prediction market and focus on crypto trading. I don't know. At least they were willing to say that, though. I thought at the time in that letter from, I think it was penned by both Tyler and Cameron, I thought that was very nice, actually, that they were willing to be as transparent as to say, like, there is not demand here, we're pulling out. And it just feels like you don't get that a lot in this space. You don't have that level of I don't know if transparency is really the right word, but yeah.
The shareholders would disagree with you, and that's why they're suing them. I think the reality why they're suing them is probably because the stock's down 80%. I think we see this quite a bit.
Yeah, $28 IPO, and it's at like $6 now or something.
This isn't the reason why Kraken's delaying their IPO.
572. Holy shit! I bought the Gemini IPO on Robinhood.
Yeah, I bought the Bitco one. Well, it's up today. All right, let's see how it's doing. It's down 47%, so it's outperforming Gemini at least, but it hasn't been around that. It's only 2 months old and it's down 47%. So no appetite for these crypto platform IPOs in 2026 so far. We'll see if Kraken's able to buck that trend. Folks, we went around the horn. We didn't talk about the Clarity Act. Maybe we'll save it for a longer discussion. Perhaps we can even get Sander plugged in. Some meaningful headlines came out on Friday. Markets didn't meaningfully move, so it's a little bit of perhaps the headline's bigger than the true substance. But we'll talk about it on tomorrow's show. Perhaps we want to get to our Yeet giveaway. So everyone stay tuned until the end of the show. Let's go ahead and pull up that board, Producer Charlie, if you are ready. And Mondays, I forget, are Mondays weighted? Yeah, looks like that is a weighted wheel. So those who have done the most volume over the past week and month will have a higher chance to win on select days. So let's go ahead and spin it. Oops. All right, looks 13. Looks like you pulled up, active in the chat all day. Congrats, you have won. So once again, you've won. Stay tuned. I think Wednesday, Farouk will be back. We will look to do all the Yeet action we need to catch up on Wednesday. But I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. Logan, thank you for joining us here today. I know you'll be back tomorrow. Folks, we'll be back 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow to break down all the news in market action. Till then, go have a beautiful day. Goodbye.